exposing some darkness. I just went on a TikTok live. The guy asks, where does Paul ever... I'm telling him about the refreshing of the Holy Covenant. The guy says, where does Paul ever talk about sacrificial law? Galatians 3:19. Like, there's a million places, right? Then he, for some reason, he wanted it to be in Romans. So I'm like, okay, Romans 8, verse 1 and 2. And it reads, there is now therefore no condemnation to them who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. Next verse, for the law of the Spirit of life in Yeshua Messiah has made me free from the law of sin and death. And I explained to him, there's two different laws there, right? You agree? He says, yeah, I agree. Two different laws. I said, all right, don't worry about what they are yet. You can see two different laws. One called the Spirit idiomatically, one called the flesh idiomatically. One you don't want to keep, one you do want to keep. Agree? Agree. Okay, great. So then I go, now let's check out what he was quoting. It's Ezekiel chapter 20. Okay? This guy starts reading Ezekiel 20 for us. He gets like 4 verses in, and he goes, and he's already reading it real fast. You could tell he didn't want to do it. And he's like, are we going to get to the point? Where's it coming? I'm like, dude, just keep reading, right? So he reads. Finally, I could convince this guy to read the Bible. And as it reads in Ezekiel 20, Israel came up out of Egypt, and God gave them commandments, and he said they were good, and if a man does them, he shall live, right? Then they transgressed. It's all laid out in Ezekiel chapter 20 in order. Then they transgressed, and then God says, then because they transgressed, I gave them commandments that were not good, statutes whereby they should not live. It's the law of sin and death. Because under sacrificial law, you have to stone and kill your neighbor if they break certain of the commandments. If you break the 10 commandments now, I just rebuke you and cover a multitude of sin if you repent, right? So this is right there in Ezekiel chapter 20. It's plain as day. And then I go, there you go. There's the sacrificial law. That's the flesh Paul was talking about in Romans 8, right? The law of sin and death. And then he goes, no, that's not the law of sin and death. And he jumps up to, I think it's verse 26 of Ezekiel 20, and says, which is the verse, it's a great freaking verse, and it says, I've polluted them because they have caused to pass through the fire all that opened the womb, right? They sacrificed their children to Moloch. And he says, that's the commandments that God gave them that were not good. So I say, hang on, mate. You reckon that God gave Israel the commandment to sacrifice children, and then he goes, oh, but it's not good. He's like, yeah, that's it there. This is what the Christian church, they have no freaking way at all of understanding prophecy. Absolutely none. So they're like fish out of water reading the Old Testament. The guy reads Ezekiel 20. It plainly tells you, anyone with eyes, anyone not restarted can read Ezekiel 20 and see the whole process. They come up out of Egypt, get the 10 commandments. They're good. Yeah, keep them and you'll live. Then Israel sinned. So then the option was kill them, or listen to Moses petitioning on Israel's behalf and just do something else about it. And then he gave them sacrificial law, but they were not good. That was not the intended law for God's people. So then Yeshua comes, ends that sacrificial law, and refreshes the law of God to the original 10 commandments. And good news, Gentiles, you can all keep it and enter covenant with God and be saved. That's the gospel. The guy doesn't want to hear it. So and it's like so incredibly plain as day. That little sermon I just mentioned, go read the first 3 verses of Romans 8, then go see what he's quoting in Ezekiel 20. It's the easiest way to see the difference between the Holy Covenant and then the sacrificial law, which was added because of transgression. And then the guy has no way to argue with it, so he goes and he just puts his foot in it. I don't even think he really realized he was doing it, but then he did realize, and then instead of going, oh yeah, shit, hang on, I'm wrong, he doubles down, and he says that the commandment that wasn't good, that God gave Israel, was the ability, he was allowing them to sacrifice children. Absolutely insane. By the way, what that verse means is what every freaking Christian's doing every time Christmas rolls around, passing their children through the fire to Moloch. And all the abortions that happen in America. It's like, out of all the abortions that happen in America, 70% of them are Christian women. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. Let that sink in. 70% of abortions in America are from Christian women. The wages of sin is death. And this is where we're at, because no one keeps the 10 commandments. And then you go around and tell people, keep the 10 commandments. And it's like, they react like you told them just to kill the cat or something. They hate the 10 commandments. They hate the Bible. It was like so hard getting this guy to bother to read Ezekiel 20. He couldn't even care what he was reading. It was reading so fast the whole time. He was like hating it. I wish it was recorded, because this is, if anyone saw that, that's the expose of the Christian church that Paul warned you about in 2 Thessalonians 2. The church is going to fall away, and everyone's going to have Jesus in their hearts claiming to be God, and that's the abomination of desolation. And they're the temple of Apollyon.